Okay.
Conditioning theory, we have a cognitive learning theory, and then the social learning theory.
Good.
And then under the conditioning theory, that's where we have the behaviorism or what?
Okay, behaviorism or
Yes,
behavioral theory. Okay.
yes. That one is about what the learner observes, like the observations and then the learnings and one does. That's to my understanding, say. And
Okay.
then under the cognitive learning theory, that place, this learning asks about how, like how one focus on people's learning. Then under the social learning theory, the learner there asks why. That's where we have the constructivism. That's where the learner's role in their own way of learning, like the role the learner play in his or her own way of learning. So
Okay.
this is the only thing I can remember.
Oh, that is great. It is not only, you have said a lot. So thank you. That's a very good reflection of what you heard last week. Let me take the second person. What did you also learn last week? So let's take the first one. Under the behaviorist theory, what are the two major divisions of the behaviorist theory? Yes, I can see. Yes. Agatha, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
So we said we have the two main forms in the behaviorism was the positive reinforcement and then the negative reinforcement.
Okay.
Where we said the positive reinforcement is giving them, like, letting them know the positive impact they will get from the education you are giving them. Like when you are giving education on the mosquito nets, the benefits they would derive from using the mosquito nets. And the negative ones are their attitude, what will incur when they practice something negatively or they do something bad, like beating or what the negative things we also do to the women during delivery and at ANC, like shouting on them at the during ANC. So say
Okay.
that's it.
Thank you, Agatha. Will somebody want to add up before I come in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please add up.
So with the negative reinforcement, that one is something that we do negatively but end up in a positive way.
Okay.
For instance, like the final pressure that we give to women,
okay.
It's not allowed. It's a cake. But in the long run, the client is not able to push. So when you give the fundal pressure, then the baby comes out and the person gets her baby. Though it's a wrong attitude towards them, but it ends up in a positive way. That is for the negative reinforcement. And the positive reinforcement is the positive things that we do, like giving mosquito net, giving education to the women. Those are and we do it. We have to redo it, or like male involvement.
How are you, Kawan? Kebi roaster something here.
Better gift you are the service.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. And I said with a positive reinforcement.
Okay.
For those are the positive things that we do, and we repeat them because they are good, and we are repeating them. For instance, with male involvement at ANC, as they come, we attend to them very early so that they can go. And all the women too will learn and bring their husbands to ANC. And there are things we reinforce, we do, so that it will encourage other people. Those are the positive ones. And with the negative reinforcement are the things, the negative things that is not allowed, it's not in the protocol, we do though, but it end up in a positive way. Like the example I gave on the fundal pressure.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that is very good. That is very good. So one thing I want us to all take is that in the positive reinforcement, we are looking at behavior, behaviorism, behavior. So what positive behavior do you want to enforce? And at our various workplaces, as you have already said, we want to enforce male involvement. Male involvement. So male involvement is a positive behavior I want to enforce. Now, the second aspect is that what are the positive ways that we can enforce male involvement? And one of the positive ways we can enforce male involvement is to give special treatment to women who come with their husband first. So the behavior here is male involvement in ANC care, but the specific positive action we are taking is to give preference to women who come with their husband and serve them first. So that's the positive reinforcement. So yeah, it's a positive behavior you want to encourage by using a positive way, by using a reward. Now, in the negative reinforcement, as you rightly said, it is a positive behavior we want to enforce, but we are rather using a negative means to enforce the behavior. So when a woman is about to give birth, as you rightly said, giving birth is a positive outcome that we want. How do the baby come out successful? It's a positive outcome. But we in negative reinforcement, we are using a negative method to achieve that results. So the negative method to let the baby come out is that, as I say, you apply fundal pressure. It is negative. It has negative effect on the woman. The woman will not like it. It is unpleasant. But that negative action will result in a behavioral change, which we all desire. So that's just something of the difference in terms of recapping. All right, so that's great. So from there, we went to the cognitive theory, then also to the social theory or the constructive theory. Okay, so this morning, let us look at what we want to learn. So by the end of today's lecture, we want to be able to explain principles of learning. So we want to look at in learning, there are various principles that we must apply to make the meaning meaningful and effective. So we'll look at what are these principles. Then these principles, we also have components of teaching and learning. So we identify the three components each of teaching and learning. So when we mention teaching, what are the three components of teaching? When we also mention learning, what are the three components of learning? Then finally, we wish to look at the principles of teaching and learning. They are categorized. So they are put into various categories. And these categories, we want to look at the 5 major categories of the principles of teaching and learning. And then under each of these 5 categories, we'll now look at the specific examples that we can see for us to appreciate them more. So this is what we intend to achieve by the end of the lecture. So to start with, let's look at the picture on the board. What can you see and what can you identify? Rebecca, what can you see?
So I've raised up my hand for some quite a long time.
Oh, sorry. So please, you can look at the screen on your board. Yeah, look at the screen shared. Look at the picture. What can you see? What can you see?
I can see a board in front of a group of other students with a lecturer or madam in front. But sir, before then, I wanted so that if we can go through the Robert Garney's this thing a little bit.
Okay, that's why your hand was up. Okay. All right. So is it possible for me to proceed with this, and at the end we can look at it?
Yes, please.
Sir.
Okay, so then you let us proceed with this, and then maybe to the end of the lecture we can now go back and explain a bit on it. Okay, so please, based on this picture, just tell me what you have identified. You say you can see a madam, you can see children, then you can
and a board.
okay, then a board. Good. All right. So yes, you have said something that is very true. So we want to use this to explain the principle of teaching. So we are saying that in teaching involves psychological laws. That if you are a teacher, you should know that the principles of teaching involve psychological laws. And when we say psychological laws, we are looking at the mind of the learner. That the mind of the learner is important in teaching and learning. How do you create, or how do you ensure that the mind of the learner is ready and the mind of the learner is in a very safe environment to be able to take your material? So the learner is important in teaching. So teaching, the principles involved that you look at the psychological laws of the learning process, that's the learner. Then also look at the educational concepts. So educational concepts, in terms of education, you realize that from this particular picture, we have the board. The board is there, and you can see that on the board, there is some learning material on the board. So, and in education, we refer to them as teaching learning materials. So the educational concept is just referring to that in teaching and learning, there are certain educational materials that you need to bring along. You need to provide to help the learner. Then the last part of the definition says that, and the rules of practice upon which all educational procedures are formed. So in the rules of practice, as we go on, we will look at some of them in the lesson. But you have to understand that in teaching, in the rules of practice, you do not unnecessarily shout on a student. In classroom management, which is under the rule of teaching, you cannot sack a student from the class. Yes, we do it as lecturers, as teachers, but it's not allowed. In the rules of practice, you cannot sack a student from the classroom. So in all, the principles of teaching is referring to the laws of the learner, the psychological laws of the learner. It's referring to educational concepts that should be applied, and also refers to the rules of practice as we are teaching in the learning and teaching process. What are various classroom rules that we need to follow to enhance teaching and learning? So in definition, that is the explanation of the definition. So what I want you to understand is that when you are asked of the principles of teaching, what it refers to, note these three keywords. That it refers to the psychological laws of the learner. So think about the learner. So it refers to the psychological laws of the learner. Number two, it involves educational concepts, which are the teaching learning materials I mentioned, or the teaching methodologies. And that number three, the key thing is that there are some rules of practice. And the rules of practice refers to the classroom management. As you're in the classroom with the learner, what are some of the rules that you have to observe as learner and as teachers? So that is the explanation of principles of teaching and learning. You might not write it the way it is here. You might not be able to say it the way it is here, but I want you to look at the picture. First, we have, just look at students. We have children sitting. The children are the learners. So the learners have different minds. So you are looking at their psychological laws in their minds, how they all learn differently. Secondly, you can see a madam standing. The madam is the lecturer or the teacher. The madam must employ educational concepts. That's the madam must teach using teaching methodologies. The madam must bring teaching and learning materials to enhance the learning. And then number three is that as they are in the classroom, the students and the madam, there are various rules that the madam must face and the students too must also face. So in summary, you don't need to choose the definition, but understand these three things: students' psychological laws, the teacher educational concepts, and then the classroom rules of practice. And that forms your definition for principles of teaching. So you can write it in your own way. It doesn't matter, but you just understand these basics. Now, having learned this, let's now go to the second objective for the class, which is about identifying the components of teaching and learning. So when we talk about learning, what are the components of learning? What makes up learning? So before I project that slide, can we see what is happening here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
tell me what is happening here. What have we seen?
A lecture in front of a group of people. They've been divided. They've divided themselves into groups.
Okay.
And they have facilitator in front of them doing something on the board.
Okay. That is great. Who else? What can you say?
Sir,
Yes, please.
sir, what I also observe is that those people who are standing in front of each groups, they are from the groups themselves, meaning that they are members of the groups, and they are now up to teach them whatever that they are learning.
Okay. Good. Any other trial? What can you also say? Any other observation? Yes, please.
Sir, please, each group also is very focused on their teacher or on their group leader.
Okay, so that is also another observation.
Sir.
Yes, you can also share yours.
Hello, sir.
Please, I can hear you.
Sir, please. Yes. Sir, please, for the students.
Please continue. Hello.
Hello, sir. All the types of the groups also have their materials. You can see books and pens on the table in front of each of them.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
So please, they are in a conducive environment with the learners being in group with their various teachers and learning materials.
Oh, okay. Good.
Sir.
Yes, please.
They also have the sitting arrangement is different from each individual in the room.
Sitting arrangement. Okay. Yes. Good. Last one. Then we'll continue.
Sir.
Yes, please.
Please, they are in a group solving their problems.
Okay, in groups solving their problems. So let me ask you, as a student, as a learner, do you like this type of setting?
Yes, sir.
Do you really like this kind of classroom that you have seen?
No, sir.
No.
No,
This classroom, no.
No.
Sir.
I like it.
No.
Okay, so why don't you like it?
Hello, sir. Me, I will be distracted. I will look at other people without concentrating because we are all in the classroom.
Okay.
And with this, maybe we are all teaching the different things. So
divided attention since we are playing.
Okay.
So if these people are shouting or saying different things, our concentration will be there rather than what we are learning. So they will be divided.
Good. All right. So thank you for your contributions, and just have this picture in mind. As we go ahead, we will refer to it. But under our teaching and learning, I've just projected it so that you look at some components of teaching and learning. And as we go on, we will look at the ideal situation, what this picture really is, based on our interpretation. Good. So it is just for you to be engaged and to share your thoughts. All right. So the components of teaching and learning. We are saying that learning has 3 components, and teaching also has 3 components. So in learning, as you have seen on top, learning must touch on cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. So 3 components. Learning must touch on cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. So when we say cognitive is about knowledge. So learning must be knowledge acquisition. So the first component of learning is that you must give knowledge to the learner. And the knowledge is cognitive, mostly on the mind. So you have to supply the learner, or you have to help the learner to gain knowledge. And in gaining the knowledge, the role of the teacher, as we said, is not to pour all the knowledge onto the learner as if the learner knows nothing. So as if the learner is an empty barrel. So you, the teacher, you are the master of the knowledge. So you consider the learner as nothing, and you just all the time when you come, your focus is that you all of you don't know anything. Is it possible? So we don't do that. In knowledge acquisition, we don't do that. Knowledge acquisition, you only guide the learner. You guide the learner to discover the knowledge. Jacqueline, your hand is up. Hello, Jacqueline.
Hello, Jacqueline.
Okay, it was already up. All right. That's fine. On mute. Okay.
Yeah, but this student can't happen. Now, even a woman is teaching.
All right. So please, on mute.
I know the mommy reading me from go to now. You go, I don't know why I'm
Sisters, please mute yourself. Mute yourself. We can't hear you.
I'm referring to here. No. Oh no. I think she passed me like.
All right. So the first component of learning is that it is about knowledge acquisition.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Please, if you could make someone a co-host, because we are discussing the class and we are finding it very difficult to listen. Me myself, I'm in a place that it's almost noisy, but I'm trying very hard to attend the lecture. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'm also a co-host myself, so I have to get them to make one of you to a co-host as well. Okay. All right. So I'll place the request very soon. It is my hope that someone will make the co-host. Thank you. So we are saying that there are three components of learning. Learning should involve cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Now, explaining cognitive is about knowledge acquisition. And the knowledge acquisition, as I said, in acquiring knowledge, the learner should be considered as somebody who already knows something, and the teacher is just to help the learner to discover more. But not that you are just pouring, as I said from the beginning. The learner is not just an empty barrel, no. Then, secondly, we are saying that affective, the knowledge that you acquire as a learner, it must bring about attitudinal change. So the knowledge should affect your personality. So knowledge is to affect personality. So that means that we are saying that it must involve a change of behavior. And then thirdly, we are saying that in the psychomotor, learning should involve skills. It should involve practical application of skills, practical application of the knowledge that you have learned. So when, for example, you teach so you teach your clients on hand washing. So hand washing, in the hand washing. Yeah. Hello. Hello.
Five to 7
Please, your network is not good. Okay. So we are saying the psychomotor that is about skills acquisition, and skill acquisition refers to the practical application of knowledge. Practical application of knowledge. So if you are taught how to wash hands, hand washing, you are given the theory of hand washing. You are taught in a classroom of hand washing, the steps in hand washing. Then in the psychomotor, which is about the skill, we want you to now practicalize this knowledge of hand washing that you have been taught, the steps. Carry out the steps practical for us to see. That's about skills. And then it involves the psychomotor. The psycho is mind. Then the motor is performance. Performer using physical body structures. So using your body structures physically. So from your mind, you translate it to practical application, psychomotor. So these three marks are the components of learning, and that every learner, as we are trying to impact knowledge and to discover knowledge as well, we should make sure that the learner benefits from all these three components. The learner gets the knowledge, the learner is able to change behavior based on the knowledge acquired, and then the learner should practically demonstrate the knowledge that has been acquired. Then in teaching, what about teaching? Teaching, in order to achieve what the learner components are in teaching, in the knowledge acquisition in the learner, in teaching, it corresponds to telling. So telling, how do you get the knowledge if you are not told? So before you acquire the knowledge, you need to be told about it. You need to be reminded about it. You need to be prompted. You need to be prompted in order to acquire the knowledge. Then in the attitude is in showing. Attitude is in showing. So as a teacher, you must show what you want the students to actually pick up as attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So if I teach you as the learner that I want you to change your attitude as a learner, then I teach you about how to maintain environmental hygiene, why you shouldn't throw away polythenes, why you should sweep your environment. And you happen to pay me a visit one day in my house, and you come to my house and you realize that my whole environment is littered, is dirty. It means that I'm not living out what I'm teaching you to change your behavior. So teaching to change a behavior, you must show. The teaching must involve showing. Yes, Jane, your hand is up.
Yes, sir. And please consider the components of the learning, the cognitive and the affective and the psychomotor. I want to ask whether they are arranged, or the affective can come before the cognitive, or it is in the order. Like, I don't know whether you get what I'm saying.
Yes, yes, I get your point. Yes, it is not in order. It's not in ascending order. Ascending order say that this one comes first before the others. But to still add to that, the knowledge acquisition begins, though it's not a process. We are not looking at it as a process, but we are looking at them as separate components. But in these separate components, knowledge must be acquired first. For the knowledge acquisition, it must be acquired first. But between the affective and psychomotor, there is no order that from cognitive you must come to affective before you go to psychomotor, or you must come to psychomotor before you come to affective. But they are separate components standing on their own. But all we want you to know is that these three components must all reflect in the learning process, that the learner should undergo all these three processes. So you as a teacher must ensure that your teaching, the material you are giving to the learner should have these three components involved. So yeah, the learner must have the knowledge. The learner must, there should be a change in behavior, attitude, and then the knowledge should be demonstrated practically. Yeah, so for here, it's not arranged in order, but knowledge must always come. Knowledge must always begin. You give knowledge. And then if you are to arrange it in order, though it's not in order, but if you are to arrange it in order, you can say that from knowledge, then you want skills to come. From knowledge, you want skills to come. Then when the person demonstrates their skill, that's a practical application of the knowledge, you now expect the person to apply both the knowledge and the skill in daily life activities by changing your behavior going forward, by thinking about what you are taught and practical applying it in order to bring about an attitudinal change, which is attitude. So it can go that way, but in actual fact, there are separate components that we are taking. It's not an ascending order.
Thank you.
All right, you are welcome. So we are on the teaching. So we are saying that the teaching.
Sir, please, my hand is up.
Oh, I thought you were the one who asked the question. Okay. Please stop.
Sir, please, with the teaching process, with the showing, the attitude, is it should be shown in the teacher or in the learner?
Here in the teaching involves that the showing should be both in the teacher and in the learner. Now, the teacher shows the learner the right attitude you want the person to acquire, the right behavior you want the person to acquire. But to make it more meaningful, the teacher should also exhibit it, because it's a behavioral change. The teacher should also exhibit it, because it is not about the classroom alone. So if I come to a classroom and I teach you what the behaviors I want you to achieve based on the topic. What if I leave the classroom? It doesn't mean that my teaching has ended. So if I also leave the classroom as a teacher, the teaching still continues. The showing still continues. So the showing must still continue in my behavior as a teacher, because you are not only learning from the teacher what is taught in the classroom, but you are learning also what is taught outside the classroom. The two must complement. So yes, the teaching, the showing we are talking about, you show the learner the behavior or the attitude that should be acquired. And then after the classroom, continuously, it's a continual process. You have to show it. Now, for example, if I teach you in class that please love you are all sisters. So midwives will call you sister. So everybody says sister. Then I tell them, oh, you are all sisters. So as sisters, you need to help yourself. As sisters, you need to talk to each other in a polite manner. So that's a behavior I want you to take, attitude I want you to put up. And I teach you by showing it. And in the classroom, I now show it in a tone. Then, after I've left the classroom, in my daily interaction with you, you don't see me behaving like a sister towards you. then you are going to have difficulty accepting what I've taught you in the class. I've shown you the right in the class, but outside the class, what I'm showing you as a teacher is also different. So you have learning difficulty in your mind. Which one to actually take? Whether to take what I'm teaching in the class or what I'm showing outside. So yes, so it must go both ways. Please, are you okay?
Yes, sir. So say it means you have to practice what you preach, isn't it?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sure. You must do that. So you show the attitude to acquire, and then the skill must be what doing. The skill must be doing. So when you show it, okay. All right. So, oh, sorry. Some people's hands are up. All right. So, Josephine, your hand is up. Josephina, sorry. Josephina. Josephina, you can talk. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, please. So I want to ask, is it that the components of learning is the cognitive, affective, and the psychomotor, and the teaching is the telling, showing, and doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
All right. So cognitive, affective, psychomotor, then in the teaching, it must be telling, showing, and doing to achieve the learning. Now, going forward, I want us to look at the learning pyramid. On the first day, I brought this learning pyramid, but I want us to look at it again. So in the learning pyramid, we are talking about knowledge, going back to the component. We are talking about knowledge acquisition. We are talking about behavior change or attitude. Then we're also talking about skill. So to get the knowledge, to get the skill, to get the attitude, we have to use the learning pyramid to get these three components in the learning process. So the learning pyramid helps in student retention rates. So when we talk about the student retention rate, the average student retention rate, we are looking at in terms of material in the learning process. We are talking about the percentage. We are assigning some percentages to your ability to retain a material after you've learned it, depending on the method that has been used. Which method will be most effective? Which method is least effective to help you retain or remember a material that has been taught? So that one there, it is arranged. So from the pyramid, you realize that lecture, have you seen lecture? Can you see lecture on the board?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So lecture from the board, lecture is the least method that you can use to help students remember whatever they are taught. That's what they are saying. So because of that, they have not even given lecture a percentage. So what it meant is that as I'm lecturing you online. If I just talk throughout, it means that your ability to remember this particular lesson is very low. Your ability to remember this particular lesson is very, very low because it's purely lecture. Now you go on to reading. Reading. If you read on your own, if you read, it means you have 10% of retaining all the knowledge that you have read. So if you go and sit down on your own, then you take the slides that we are giving you or the book that you have been given, then you sit down to read the book on your own. After reading, you are likely to retain your ability to remember what you've read. It's just about 10%. Then we have the audiovisual. So the audiovisual, you talk, then you show. So currently what I'm doing now is audiovisual. I'm speaking audio. You can hear me. At the same time, I'm projecting the material that I'm speaking to you about. So you are hearing and you are seeing. So if you hear and the hearing comes with seeing, it's telling us that at the end of the day, you can retain, you can recollect about 20% of whatever that you have heard and seen. So it meant that this particular PowerPoint we are doing right now in this lecture, you can remember 20% of this after we have finished the class. That's just a percentage they've shown. Then the next is demonstration. So if I demonstrate, if we're in the skills lab, if it's in the skills lab and I'm doing demonstration in the skills lab about procedures, how to go about the procedure practically, it means that after demonstrating to you, your ability to recollect the demonstration is about 30%. And then discussion. If I give you a topic, so the first picture that you have seen, this particular picture you have seen, this is a discussion. Each table has a particular topic that they have discussed. Yes, please. They have discussed, they have been asked to work on. So they have done discussion as a group. And after the discussion, they are now trying to put together all that they have discussed as a group. So it's telling us that if students engage in discussion, if you give students topics to discuss in a classroom and you supervise the discussion in groups, and the groups must be smaller groups, not bigger groups. At the end of the day, after that discussion session, we expect the student to retain about 50% of what has been discussed. About 50% of what you've been discussed in smaller groups as a student, you should be able to remember that. Then the other things are the practice doing. So in the learning process, if it is about practice, and in the practice, we can talk about giving you a group presentation. So in the practice doing, I give a group presentation. You go and look for the material yourself. You practice the material yourself. You try to explain it to yourself. And then you come as a group to also come and present it to others. So in the practice doing, you have to go and look for the material yourself. Discover the material, arrange it the way that it should be arranged. And that is a higher level of learning. If you are able to do practice doing, if you are able to practice that, then it means that at the end of that particular session, you should have retained about 70% of all that you have looked for yourself. Because you have searched for the material, you have arranged it the way it should be presented for people to understand. So you have done it yourself. And as far as you have done it yourself, it means that 70% should be within you. And then the highest one is a teach others. So the teach others is where you now begin to also coach other people about the material that you have learned. You want to put into practice. Now in the practice doing, you only search for the material, you organize it into meaningful manner, and you can do presentation. But in the teach others, you can be a peer teacher. You can be a peer teacher, or you can now be a facilitator, or you can be a trainer of yourself, because you are competent with the material, you know it, so you try to impact it onto others too. Explain it to them in simple language, to your colleagues in simple language for understanding. So in class, you realize that other students who read the material, other students who search for the information, if they want to retain more of the material, they begin to teach their colleagues, peer teaching. And the more you involve in peer teaching, the more you constantly retain the material that you have learned yourself. So the learning pyramid tells us that the most effective learning method to use is by teaching others. That if you want to retain what you have acquired as knowledge, try teaching other people. Now we are at the ward, so we are at the ward, and at the ward, mostly we do the practice doing, and then they teach others. So you have learned the knowledge in school, you have learned the knowledge from workshops, and then at your various workplaces, you are practice doing and you are teaching others. So that's the highest level. So you don't struggle to do it, because it is with you. It is something that is with you. So at any time, at any point, if there's a case and they call on you, it comes automatic, because you have learned it through practice doing and through teaching others. So it is with you. You can always remember it, and you can always apply it at any time. But the least is the lecture method. So my dear students, I know that we like lecture method, is that not it? We mostly, because of our work schedule, because of our busy schedule, we want the lecturer to go and look for the information and come and give it to us. That is the one we like. So in that case, you realize that most of us as students, we are all learners. As learners, we want the lecturer to go and look for all the material and come and give it to us. So that our job is just to take all the information from the lecturer, sit down at one place, and just try to put everything in our head with the hope that this is exactly the entire knowledge. This is the entire knowledge. There's no knowledge aside this knowledge. But that is the least way to understand as a student. If you really want to understand the material you are studying, rely on the lecturer to impact the knowledge to you is the least way to go about it. So remember, you are not a bucket to be filled with knowledge, but you are rather a light that we should let you search for the knowledge. We should let you be actively involved in the knowledge acquisition so that you can retain the knowledge going forward. You can retain the knowledge, but it shouldn't be for pull. You come and chew, you pour, you pass, and you go away. So please, this is the learning pyramid And if you want to understand, to retain whatever you've taught as a student, this is the way it should go. Do we have any question on this, on the learning pyramid? Your ability to retain using these teaching methods. Did somebody sign up? Okay. So let me now ask you this question. Who is described as a best teacher to you? Who will you describe as a best teacher? I want 5 people to give me their opinions. Who do you describe as a best teacher in terms of teaching and in terms of assessment? So let your answers be, let it touch on teaching and let us also touch on assessment. In terms of teaching, in terms of assessment, who do you consider as a best teacher? Yes, please. Anita, your hand is up.
Yeah, so please, teachers who interact when they are teaching, they don't just lecture, but they do it in a form of discussion. They ask questions and also take feedback from students to know whether learning has taken place. So that is how I will describe.
What about the the assessment? Or you use the feedback for the assessment?
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so Rebecca, your hand is up. Who do you?
Yes, sir. I may also say that a best teacher is someone who involves the students in their doing lectures, and after that, you also assign the students and then assess them after the assignments.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Julia, your hand is up. Julia. Yeah, your
to me, to me, the best teacher will be the one who will not only give us the lectures. Like the teacher should not only lecture and go away, but he should be ready. No matter what, even if it is not, the teacher should not just brush it off. And then to me, the assessment, after that, you can ask questions to see whether we've really understood what we've lectured or the discussion we've had. So to me, that is my understanding of this.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Vivian, your hand is up.
So, to me, I think a good teacher will be the one who will use discussion and practice doing, and will allow the student to go and do research and come and do presentation. That is to teach their colleagues on the course or the topic of concern.
Okay. Thank you, Vivian. Oh, I said 5, so let the last person. So who talked? Whose hand was up? Okay, I think Ayambela, your hand was up first. Yes, so please, Ayambela.
Okay, so I also say that a best teacher is someone like before you start discussion or teaching, you first allow the students to bring out whatever idea they have about the concept or whatever they are to learn. So after he gives the students that opportunity, he now builds on it and then assess them again. Like after the lectures, he assess them again to find out how the students have really understood. And then if there are any problems, like if some of their colleagues are not getting it well, the teacher or the lecturer will not answer the questions, but allow those who understand it very well to teach the others. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Hello.
I think he is off.
Oh, okay.
All right. Hello. Sorry, class. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can
Sorry.
hear you.
There was a technical fault. Sorry. Okay. So I am Bella. You were on floor.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Please, I was saying, I will say to me, I will say that a best teacher is someone who will not just come in and then start teaching, but before the lecture starts, he would allow the students bring their ideas on how they understand the topic, and then he will now build on their ideas, correct anything that he's supposed to correct, and then after the class, he would assess them to find out whether learning has really take place or not. And finally, if any of the students are having any challenges, he would allow the other students, to those who understand it, to answer the others' questions. And then if there is any correction, he will now make it then. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Others may want to share, but for the sake of time, I'll create your indulgence that let's proceed. Okay, so do we, as students, do we actually like lecturers who give group presentation?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
I get you, understand you. All right. So in the ideal things that we are looking at the ideal things. So we are saying that in the ideal things, group presentation is a higher form of learning, and it rather helps the learner more. It rather helps the learner more. So, but because of your circumstances, because of your peculiar issue, sometimes these teaching methods that we are referring to, we are not able to apply them as we are supposed to do. And also because of the part of country we are from, we don't have smaller classrooms, like smaller class sizes that we can actually do effective teaching for students to understand it well. Our numbers are always overwhelming. We are bigger numbers. So it's difficult for us to actually apply some of these things that we really talk about. All right. So let's go forward. Go forward. I've come back. Let me see. I need to see the screen now. Sorry. Please, can you see the screen now?
Sir.
No, sir.
No, sir. There is
No,
no.
sir.
No, sir.
Sir, please, you've muted yourself.
Sir has muted himself.
Don't worry, I'm online. Okay. Are we together now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. So, so we are saying that these are the right things, but sometimes in because of our peculiar circumstances as Africans and because of your work schedule, we are not able to apply this. So, okay, Vivian, your hand is up.
Yes, sir. Sir, please, I want to ask a question concerning the components of is it teaching?
Yes, teaching and learning, please.
Learning. You were saying something. Can you flip to that side for me? I want to highlight on something.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, please.
You said that a teacher with a teaching component,
okay,
a teacher exhibits the learning component as well. For instance, with a showing.
Yes.
Teacher has to show in attitude by exhibiting the thing that he or she thought in attitude wise. And I want to ask, does it affect, because with the learning aspect too, does it affect the students? Because it is the student, I know it is the student that will be learning.
Yes.
So the students can't exhibit the teaching component, but are you saying that the teacher can exhibit both the teaching and then the learning component?
Okay, thank you. Now, when we talk about learning is also two-dimensional. We don't learn in one way. And in learning one way, what we are saying is that the learner learns what the teacher teaches in class. That's learning. Learning takes place in the classroom. That's one form of learning. At the same time, you have to understand that learning also takes place outside the classroom. And what the learner takes from the teacher in the classroom, when it goes outside the classroom, we expect the outside classroom learning to be consistent with the inside or in the classroom learning. Now, when there is a difference, so the learning, yes, the learning takes place in the classroom, but at the teaching level too, the learner also learns based on what happens outside in teaching. So it's both inside and outside. Now, when there is a difference, or when there's inconsistency in the learning, in what is learned inside the classroom and what is learned outside the classroom, then there's going to be a conflict in the learner's mind. The learner is going to have a conflict in the mind that this lecturer in the classroom, this is the way you have taught us. But outside the classroom, we are still learning from you. We are still learning. We are still learning from you outside the classroom. So in learning from you outside the classroom, it's contrary to what you have taught me in the classroom. So when we go ahead, you realize that it should not happen. There shouldn't be that inconsistency. If there's inconsistency in learning, both in the classroom and outside the classroom by the teacher, then you realize that the learner will have a conflict. And going forward, if the learner encounters that same teacher or that same lecturer, the learner might close his or her mind to anything that the lecturer is coming to say. So that's why we're saying that learning, yes, the learner learns in the classroom, but the learner also learns outside the classroom as well. It goes in both sizes. Anita, are you okay?
It's Vivian, sir.
Sir, I'm not the one that asked the question. I
sorry,
also have
Vivian.
one.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anita, I say you have a question.
Yes, sir. I also have a question here, but since you were moving on, I wanted you to finish. But since you've come back, let me ask.
Okay, then you ask. Then move
So
forward.
I was also contemplating with the attitude and the skill, with the affective and the psychomotor, and also at the teaching aspect with the showing and the doing. I don't actually get a difference well, because with the attitude, if they see it in your daily activities, what about the skill? It's like you are presenting the same thing. So I don't know which is which. It's like it seems the same to me. So if you can differentiate for me, well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
So let's take this hospital scenario, for example. Maybe it might help. Let's take the issue of injection. You have got first-year students in your ward, and you want to take them through injection, standard protocols in giving injection. And now, first, you sit them around your table. Mostly that's what we do. You give them the knowledge. So if you give them the theoretical knowledge on injection, what injection is, you might ask them what injection is. Then you can go ahead to look at the parts of the syringe. Then, so knowledge-wise, you gather the student around your table, you give them the knowledge on injection, theory on injection. Now, after giving them the theory on injection, you have to now affect their psychomotor. So skill, how do you ensure that they now get the skill to inject? The doing. How do they get a skill? How do they learn the skill? So you, the nurse in charge, will have to do it. To let them get the skill, you have to do it for them to see. So you take them to the bedside. And so when you take them to the bedside, then you have to practicalize the injection, the theory that you have given them at the table. So to let them get the skill, you go and do it. How to mix, how to even mix the drug. After mixing, how to expel the air. All those, they are practical. So you teach them, you do it as a nurse, you do it in their presence for them to get the skill. So when you finish, the skill, they have got the practical application of injection now. And
sorry to interrupt. So that one, is it the cognitive or the affective?
So that is now the skill, the doing, when you do it for them. So when you now go to a bedside and demonstrate how to inject practically to the student, that is now psychomotor, that's skill. You want them to now get the skill of the knowledge you have given them of ingestion. On the table, you have only given them the knowledge of ingestion. You have only given them the theory, like you have just taught them the theory of ingestion. Now you have moved to the bedside with them to go and do it by giving them the skill, for them to acquire the skill, that is psychomotor. So you did practical for them to acquire the skill. Now, in the attitude, you now expect them to show working or to live out both the knowledge and then the skill that you have taught them. So theoretically, you have given them the knowledge on injection. Practically, you have gone to a bedside and you have demonstrated to them the right way to inject. So you expect that going forward, the following day or even within that day, they bring a new patient. And as they brought a new patient, you now expect them, if they were using like bad practices and ingestion, maybe the expel the air, the cocking, all those things, they did not even know the right way. And that's why you're taking your time to teach them the right way, and then the aseptic way to do ingestion without sepsis. So in the attitude, you want them going forward, you want to observe them, you want them to show you how to inject by applying it on the patient. So the next day a patient comes, quickly they are able to go and prepare the trolley, and when they go to the bedside, they are able to follow all that you've taught them, and they will give the injection clean to your own administration, and when you admire whatever they've done. What it meant is that you have affected their behavior. They are now able to do it the right way, and you have changed an attitude in them. So that's the way. I hope this is better.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay, you are. So the principles of teaching, we now want to look at teaching alone. So what are also the principles of teaching? We said there are many of them. There are so many principles of teaching, but notably, these principles, according to the APA, that's the American Psychological Association, they have categorized them into 20. So they have listed 20 principles for teaching and learning. So we are using the APA. The APA is American Psychological Association. So that means this is an association. These are psychologists. They have studied the mind, the human mind, what can work with the mind and what may not work with the mind properly. So all these mind people from America have come together to form an association. And as an association, they have sat down and come out with 20 principles that we can apply in teaching and learning. Now, these 20 principles, one of our objectives for this lesson is that you should know the 5 categories of the principles of teaching. I think that's our last objective. Know the 5 categories of the principles of teaching. So these 20 principles are categorized into 5. These 20 principles are categorized broadly into 5. And these are the 5 categories of the 20 principles. So which means that we are saying that the 20 principles, we can place them under these 5 categories. So some fall under. So all these categories. So the categories are actually 5. There are 5 major categorization of the principles of teaching and learning. So these 5, the association is saying that teaching and learning must be about thinking and learning. Teaching and learning should be about thinking and learning. You must think and learn. That's a category. Then others also fall under the category of motivation, saying that for teaching and learning, we should look at how to motivate the learner and also the teacher as well. But here our main focus is the learner. What are the things that we can do to motivate the learner to be interested in acquiring knowledge? And then classroom management. So in teaching and learning, we must look at classroom management. So if the classroom is not managed, the teaching and learning will not be effective. Then teaching and learning should also look at the social and emotional learning situation. So we should understand that the human being is a social being, is also an emotional being. So the learners, we must take note of their social environment and then their emotional environment. And then lastly, in teaching and learning, it also comes with assessment. So for us to know what we are doing right and not right, what we need to improve upon, what we need to emphasize on, then we need to periodically undertake assessment so that we will know exactly what we are doing and how to improve upon it. So the 20 principles are categorized into 5. So please, let's get these 5 categorizations. Then we can now see how we can look at the 20 principles and how to classify them under each of these. So thinking and learning, I want to explain something little on these things. Then I'll give you something, an assignment or something like that. The thinking and learning, we are looking at what the learner brings to the environment, what the learner brings to the classroom. What is the learner thinking about? For example, this course that you are doing, if I ask you the reason why you have decided to offer this course, you give me various reasons. You give me various reasons. And you'll be surprised of some of the reasons that others are giving. If I ask you, so the thinking, the mind is different. We are having our own different ways. So there are some of the activities that fall under thinking and learning. The motivation, what motivates you to learn? So in a classroom, as we are in a classroom like this, what can help you to learn more? And what can also help you to grasp the information effectively? Is it from inside or from outside? Is your motivation intrinsic or is it from outside extrinsic? Then classroom management, how do you want a classroom to be? What type of classroom can let you as a learner understand the material well? Then the social emotional learning. Learning must be emotional and social as well. We should look at your social context. All of you have several social contexts. So your experiences, your understanding of what I'm teaching you is based on what you have experienced in society and your level of exposure. Sometimes, depending on your level of exposure, some of the things we teach you is easy for others, but others too is difficult because they haven't been exposed to some of the concepts that we are mentioning. The emotional, how strong within you, your emotional being, can you withstand situations in learning? If you happen to fail, will you be emotionally strong to encourage yourself to learn? And in the classroom, what can put you off emotionally? What can put you off? So, and then the student assessment. So the assessment, we are looking at the feedback and the rest. How to ensure that the material we have taught you, you actually understand it. So the assessment could be at the beginning, it could be in the middle, or it could be at the end. So we'll look at various types of assessment. So looking at the 5 categories of principles of teaching and learning, I want us to do a small assignment within the next maybe 10 minutes. Let's do some brainstorming within the next 10 minutes. So please, if you have 2 phones, you can snap the screen. If you have 2 phones, you can snap the screen. I want to show you the next screen, and the next screen are the 20 principles. The next screen are the 20 principles. So I want you to use the 20 principles on the next screen and try to put them under the 5 headings. Just do some brainstorming. I'll project the 5 principles. Now, these 5 principles, you can find these 5 principles under these categories. They must be classified. So some fall under this, some fall under that, some fall under this. So that's a brainstorming I want us to do. So if you have 2 phones, you can screenshot this one. Or if there's another way, you can also get this one too. Yes, I am Blair, your hand is up. I am Blair, your hand is up.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Please, can you kindly go over the classroom explanation, the classroom management?
The classroom management.
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. So the classroom management, one, we are looking at the arrangement of the classroom alone. The number, the classroom size, the number of students you have alone is under classroom management. Then we are looking at the conduciveness of the classroom. Is it too airy? Is it too comfortable? Is it AC? If there's AC, is it comfortable? Having an AC in a classroom doesn't mean it's comfortable. A lot of you probably, if you sit in an AC room, it might not be comfortable for you. So you have to manage that. Then you also look at the mannerism. You have to set certain rules. If you make noise, what happens? Can you sack a student out of a class? All these are classroom. And how do you respond to student questions? If a student asks a question, the way you respond to a question alone can put the classroom off in a certain manner. It can bring about chaos. So we are looking at those things you do in the classroom as a lecturer and as students that will make the classroom conducive for every learner. So that's the classroom, basically the classroom management.
Thank you, sir.
You are welcome. So please, this is the slide.
Sir, please, and the social and emotional one, can you go over for me, please?
The social and emotional.
Yes.
Okay. So the social and emotional, we are saying that for learning and teaching, it must be according to a social context. Now, the social context, we are in Ghana, we are in Africa. It's a continent, African continent, and we are in a country called Ghana. In Ghana here, if you want to teach about food nutrients, for example, based on our social nutrients, you are talking about sources of protein, you have to limit the sources of protein you are teaching to Africa, specifically to the Ghanaian continent, the Ghanaian society. And even specifically, depending on where you find yourself, if your school is based in Kumasi and you are teaching sources of protein, you should still come down to Kumasi. Specifically, what are the available sources of protein everybody can relate to as a student, that when they go to market, they can see. So that is a social context. So if you are thinking about sources of protein and you decide that instead of bringing what you can see in Kumasi here to let the student actually appreciate what you are teaching, you decide to go and read the textbooks and you are mentioning things like cheese. Maybe you are in Bunkurgu Yoyo. Sorry, those are from Bunkurgu Yoyo, but I like that place. You are in Bunkurgu Yoyo, and you are in a certain environment, and you are teaching the students there that sources of protein, one is cheese. What are you saying? So at that level, you are not teaching according to a social context. So that's what we mean by social context. Everything must be according to a social context. For people to understand your teaching and learning well. Then we are saying that the emotional learning, we are looking at as a student, even in class, the manner in which you do the assessment as a lecturer. Some of the students, for example, if I just come in before we begin the lecture, then I'll just say, surprise quiz, please everybody remove your book and pen. That's my way of assessing students. Surprise quiz. Look, emotionally, not all your students can withstand that kind of learning and assessment. Emotionally, to put some of the students off. So we are looking at that. Then at the same time, if you have two students who fail a course, emotionally, these two students, one of them emotionally will still have hope. The person will say that, oh, I failed because I did not learn. I did not learn hard, and I'm aware that I did not learn hard. That's why I failed. So emotionally, the person is not disturbed. But the person knows that next semester, if I study well, I will pass. But in terms of emotion, there's another strength that if you give the person 0/10 and the person failed, the person will be put off. Emotional, the person will be thinking that, oh, then I'm a bad student, then I don't know anything. Then let me stop the course. So these are all things that emotionally in teaching and learning you have to look at. That though you are assessing students, but you have to know that your assessment has an impact on their emotional being, and you should be able to be considerate about that. So please, that's something on the social and emotional learning.
Thank you, sir.
So how are we supposed to do the classwork that you are saying based on the categorization that we have? How are we going to fix what we want?
All right. So look at the next. Our time is almost up. But look at the next slide. Have you seen this slide? Have you seen it?
Yes.
Yes. So what I want you to do is that first, you take the first one, which is growth mindset helps learning. And it has been explained. It says that a growth mindset helps improve academic performance. So ask yourself, based on these 5 categories, under which of the category can a growth mindset helps learning? So you try to put it under the 5 categories, which of them you think it will fall under. Then you come to number 2, baseline assessments. And they are saying that baseline assessment help organize teaching goals. So ask yourself, based on the 5 categories that I have projected. So baseline assessment, you ask yourself, will baseline assessment fall under thinking and learning? Will it fall under motivation? Or it will fall under what? Students assessment. Then you come to number 3, influences on students' knowledge. Contextual factors are important in learning. So contextual factors are important in learning. So you come back here, okay, contextual factors are important in learning. So which of these components can we put contextual factors under?
Motivation.
Classroom management. Classroom management.
Classroom management.
Classroom management.
Okay, classroom management.
Classroom
management.
Classroom management.
Classroom management.
Good.
Classroom management.
So now it's true, the contextual factors, it can fall under classroom management, and also it can fall under social and emotional learning. So some of them can actually fall under more than one category. So the context, and the context also refers to the social. You must bring it, the learning must be in the social context of the learner. So contextual is important, but it is also a classroom management thing. It also falls under, it's in the classroom management that you have to make it social context. So yes, it can fall under the 2 of them. So some of them actually can fall under more than one category, which is accepted. Is accepted. So I think for today, we will summarize the lesson and end it. Our time is up, but the slides are there. So you go to your Moodle, then at your free time, you can just use it to engage yourself. Look at the 20, classify the 20 using the 5 categories. So that next lecture, you can share with me your categories, how you have classified. So we'll start the next lecture from there, so that we'll see how you have been able to classify them. So that will be your assignment for the week. Whenever you have time, just look at it. Try to put them under the 5 categories.
Sorry to submit it at the V class.
So today we have looked at.
Please, sir, can you explain the motivation?
Oh, I said the motivation could be both intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic means that within you, the learner, you have the strong motivation to learn. So your learning is not even reliant on what the lecturer says. No matter the attitude of the lecturer, but you, the learner, you have encouraged yourself. You have encouraged yourself that you will learn no matter what. So with that strong motivation, whatever material is given to you, you will sit down and learn it. Then those are the extrinsic. So the extrinsic, the teacher can now give you extrinsic motivation. So when you answer a question, the teacher say, "Oh, clap for this person." It's a motivation in the class. That clap alone will motivate you to answer the next question. Then maybe at the end of the semester, those who perform well, the teacher decides to take them out for lunch. And I decided to take the best 5 people out for a lunch to a very nice place. So see that one going for the next semester, others will also like to be taken out for lunch. So that one is outside motivation. Or you are giving textbooks, you are giving a laptop.
Golden tulip.
So all these are places that if externally you are motivated, you can learn. So motivation falls under those ones. But you go and see how you can put it. When we come next week, we'll start from there, then we'll proceed. So thank you.
Sir, you promised to throw more light on the Robert Gardner.
Sir, please, will you provide us with handout?
Yes, it's true. I promise to do that.
Sir, please, the slide. Where will we find it?
Oh, the slide. Go to the Moodle, your V class.
Okay, sir.
I've even given you an assignment. The assignment is on the V class.
Okay, sir.
Yes, please.